I'm gonna hit the go live button.
Mhm.
Clock. Okay. So you can go ahead.
No, but living in these times where every word that you say, there's someone that's hanging on your words. Although you have a right to your opinion could cost you in 2023, as you've been seeing for a while now. So you just keep it to yourself. But I thought that all along, I don't wear that badge because it implies something that I'm not and don't want to be. And I'm tired of it. Yeah, I'm tired of it. But again, I don't have to be her.
But the fact that she is willing to say what she really thinks, means that people that feel like you feel know that you're not alone. You're not the only one that ever had that reaction to some of these phrases,
Yeah, that is true. And she is at the point in her life where, she's an author, you can say what you want to say. And those who don't want to,
well, anybody can say what they want to say, but that's what I'm saying. It depends on how much you feel like dealing with pushback, because there's always going to be pushback because we're not replicas of each other. For however many billion people live on the earth, there are that many opinions about everything. So no matter what you say, somebody's going to disagree with it, and somebody is also likely to agree with it, So, but I know we have different tolerances for dealing with pushback, but that's why I always think it's good for people to say what they think, because if you're one that can tolerate the pushback, then it helps other people see that they're not alone. They're not alone. And I'm kind of in between. Sometimes I feel like being bothered with pushback, and sometimes I don't. So, it just depends on my mood, but I do think it's good to be able to say what you think. Hey, Gio.
Hey, ladies. How you doing?
Fine. How are you, Gio?
I'm okay. It's Tuesday.
Good. I'm okay.
I'm still here.
Yeah. Well, the gang's all here, so we may as well go ahead and get started. Venita and I were kind of already talking about this idea of the reaction to phrases that Dr. Prescott-Weinstein has. But let me share the screen with the welcome and get us started. Welcome, everyone, to the Global Black Feminist Reading Circle, Session 18. This session is meeting on Tuesdays. We started on April 18th, and so far we are still on schedule to be here until August 8th. So we're almost about halfway through this book. We meet on Tuesdays at 6 p.m., broadcasting live on YouTube. You can learn more about the Global Black Feminist Reading Circle, not Research Circle, at our website called readingchangeslives.wordpress.com, where there's a page called the Global Black Feminist Research Circle. There's also a page called Book Chat, and that has just all of the posts related to everything come out on Book Chat. That's the blog. We also have a YouTube channel and a Facebook page. So for session 18, we are reading The Disordered Cosmos, A Journey into Dark Matter, Spacetime, and Dreams Deferred by Dr. Chanda Prescod-Weinstein. And tonight we're on chapter 6 called Black People Are Luminous. And I'm Michelle Odom, calling in from Brooklyn, New York. And Venita.
My name is Venita Walker. I'm joining from Cromwell, Connecticut.
Barely, huh?
Barely, but.
Well, we're glad you're here. And I'm Georgette Moses, and I'm joining you guys from Columbia, South Carolina.
All right. Well, Gio, I do not anticipate being cut off tonight. The reason the agenda was so late coming out, published at 5 o'clock today, was because I spent so much time last week trying to solve the technical problem. And so I got off of my rhythm, with the chapter. But I think I solved the problem. Which was to spend a whole lot more money on Wi-Fi.
Yeah, it can get expensive.
Yeah. But first I did a whole lot of research on notebooks, looking at what notebook I might want to buy. And then I did a lot of research on what are called software encoders, because I thought maybe that was the problem. So I was teaching myself how to use OBS and all this other stuff. And that took a lot of time. But then finally I just said, it's more than likely it's a router problem, just not having the right Wi-Fi. So I did that. And then Bonita and I did a test last week, and we stayed on the call for an hour and a half. And I never got bumped off.
Wow. All right.
So
that's cool.
So, and I've had a lovely week of surfing the web and live streaming stuff, and it's going well. So fingers crossed. Okay. So because of that, I don't know if you can see it yet on the screen, but I have this little app within Zoom. They now have a bunch of little apps, right? And one of them is a timer. So I have it set for 3 minutes. And when it starts, I think you'll be able to see it. But I figured I'd play around with that tonight. And then it's got a bunch of other apps that I've never really been able to explore because the bandwidth wouldn't let me do all that. So let's see how it goes.
Okay.
All right. So do I have the agenda open? Yeah. Let me share the agenda. And now this timer thing is getting on my nerves. I got to figure out where to put it. Okay. You can see it? You can see the agenda?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, I guess I'll read it because it's kind of long. And I don't want to hear y'all's growling.
What? Never.
In chapter 6, Black people are luminous matter of the disordered cosmos, a journey into dark matter, space-time, and dreams deferred by Chanda Prescod-Weinstein. The author argues for accuracy in the metaphors we use that draw on scientific concepts. Specifically, she shares her concerns and disagreement with the practice of comparing Black people to dark matter. The analogy is inaccurate from a science point of view, and other concepts from physics could be more appropriate and useful, like luminosity and weak gravitational force. The author develops her case that dark matter is the wrong analogy to use for Black people. Some of her concerns are that dark matter is naturally invisible, while Black people have unnaturally been rendered invisible. Black people are visible, Black people are real. Dark matter isn't actually dark. It's just invisible to light. It's transparent, more like a piece of glass than a chalkboard. The dark matter analogy can lead white scientists to see Black people as outside the norm. The dark matter analogy misrepresents science to Black people who are already marginalized in the scientific community. The analogy draws on their experiences as Black people to give the phrase meaning, yet this is not the meaning that dark matter should have as a scientific concept. I feel like there's a missed opportunity here to make dark matter our own, but in a way that acknowledges that science is ours too, she wrote. If dark matter is the wrong analogy, luminosity is accurate. Black people are human. Black people too are luminous matter. I don't mean this metaphorically. We are literally luminous, wrote Prescott Weinstein. Humans give off infrared light due to our body heat. Light interacts with our skin, making us physically visible to anyone who engages the world through sight. So technically speaking, we could say Black people are luminous matter, as emphasized by the chapter title. Prescott Weinstein is also troubled by the many ways in which Black people are rendered invisible by others and by ourselves. Tackling racism and white supremacy from the perspective of a Black scientist, Dr. Prescott Weinstein questions who has access to science and how science is communicated to Black audiences. Where erasure is the concern, weak gravitational lensing may be a better analogy than dark matter for describing the effect of racism. Because when the gravitational lensing is not so strong and the distortion not so dramatic, it's called weak gravitational lensing, similar to the function of systemic racism. Observing weak gravitational lensing, like seeing systemic racism, requires sophisticated analysis. Seeing racism is difficult without a good structural analysis, like seeing weak gravitational lensing is hard without an expert using a good computer algorithm. Racism is the weak gravitational lensing of human dynamics. If you can't see the lensing, maybe you need to adjust your viewpoint. She concludes Black people are actually normal, real people. We have disabilities and chronic ailments and weaknesses like all other humans. We also have necessary strengths like resilience and are extraordinary in our global cultural contributions. While luminous in multiple ways, we are not just magical Negroes. All right. Venita, you want to read question 1? Oh, Venita's on the phone.
I'm so sorry. That's my father person.
Okay. You need to talk to him?
No, I've talked as much as I'm going to talk to him today.
Oh, okay. You want to read question one, or you have another question you want to bring up?
No, I can't read and talk at the same time. So it might be better if Georgette reads it. I'll answer it.
Okay, yeah. Venita's got some health stuff going on.
Okay.
And breathe, I should say.
Gio, you want to read it, or you want to take another one?
No, I'll read number one. That's fine. That's fine.
Okay.
It's worth unpacking the larger question of Black visibility. What exactly about Black people is invisible? We are colorful, not invisible. We do have to deal with the erasure of our labor and the significance of our lives. The value of our labor is denied and made invisible. Question A. In what ways, if any, have you ever felt invisibilized?
Okay. Anybody? Oh, y'all want me to start? All right.
Would you put that back in, please?
Huh?
Would you put the question back there again for just a second?
It's in what ways have you ever felt invisibilized?
Okay. Many times. Where I live, I felt invisibilized. Where when I would deal with situations or go to school for certain meetings and events for my children, I felt like I was invisible. I really, it's been so many instances, I can't even name them all.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, ultimately, I made sure that I was visible, you know. Mm-hmm. But it doesn't mean at some point during certain times or events that I didn't feel invisible until I let folks know that I was visible. I'm not colorless, I'm not faceless, I'm here. So it's a lot. What they call that, microaggressions?
Yeah.
Yeah. There you go.
Okay. Thank you. All right, I guess okay. Yeah, I mean, I feel like I have experienced it a lot. What comes to mind is going to the store. You know, I mean, many a time I have gone to the store, you know, I may be standing there at the register and the cashier can't seem to see me, you know, or in the old days when you would go in a store where some kind of clerk, you know, would generally come up to see if you needed any kind of help, you know, I would feel invisible. You know, I mean, I think even a place like Facebook is another place, you know, if you care that much about it, that can make you feel invisible. So, you know, so I mean, I agree with her point that it's you know, it's something that humans do to each other. White people do it to each other, but we also do it to each other. You know, it happens a lot.
I'll give you a good example of one time I felt invisible. I was at a board meeting, And that was during the time, I think Clint was in middle school. And the principal of the school, wanted to, during the board meeting, announce a new program that they had implemented at school, because the ratio at that point in town, I think it was Aaron, as a matter of fact, was like about 98-2. So he stood there as if I wasn't sitting there, although he knew me very well because my face was in a place all the time to keep me in check. And he actually stood up in front of a audience of 99.9% white people, mothers, few fathers during this time, and said, well, I want to, talk about a few things that were new things that we're implementing in our school. And because of diversity and how things have changed. Well, I don't know what change he was talking about. The ratio was 98-2. So we're implementing a new concept, AKA program, AKA whatever you want to call it, called racial tolerance. Mm-hmm. Well, I had to take a breath. And I really did. Mind you, in that room, it was the ratio in that room was 99-1.
Mm-hmm.
Now, even if you tried to miss me, now I know I only got 20% melanin in my skin. However, there's no doubt in your mind that I'm Black or that my sons are Black. Mm-hmm. And he knew me very well. So I cleared my throat and clutched my pearls. Michelle. And I said, excuse me, doctor, I won't call his name, the principal. I said, would you repeat what you just said? I just want to make sure I heard you right. And after you repeat it, I'm going to give you an opportunity to elaborate on that. Because I don't want to draw this into conclusion, because it might not be the right one. Mm-hmm. But last I checked, first of all, you just insulted me and my child. Everybody first turned red, and all of the little white mothers were just loose. They didn't know which way to turn. You know how they did the whole thing. But if anyone's doing any tolerating in this school, it's my son, because he is a minority. Well, Mrs. Walker, let me explain. No, you're late. You're late. You're late. And please don't humor me, and your apologies will never be accepted. First of all, you're already saying the minorities are less than by the title that you're giving your so-called program or diversity or whatever you want to call it, by saying racial tolerance. So what you just told me is that you're going to teach all the white folks in this school, mothers and fathers, and of course the students, to tolerate the 2 Black children here. Is that what you're saying? Because that's how I'm reading it. Mm-hmm. So of course, you had a few parents that literally wanted to faint. Then I sat in the front. I could hear a couple of parents whisper in the back. So this is when they thought I was invisible and pretty much made me invisible. So I stood up and turned around and asked anyone if they have anything they wanted to say to me. You have something you want to say? You want to elaborate? What do you want to do? Everybody just looked at me. I said, okay. So since no one has anything to say or doesn't want to elaborate on anything that he said or I said, if I hear one whisper behind me, then it's not going to be pretty. So, and I'll never forget that day. It was just, after dealing with that all your life, over and over and over again, could you imagine a principal standing in front of you, a white principal, and the ratio is 98-2? Want to talk about
it happens all the time. Happens all the time.
And it was just me, and it didn't have to do with my child. I might have handled a little different. When you start hurting my child and literally, diminishing them, And it was just something, I started to grow fangs and my ears started to get pointed. You know what I'm saying? And all kinds of crazy stuff I started morphing into. But could you imagine standing there and saying,
yeah.
So everybody, he didn't know what to say. The board members, everybody just didn't know what to say. And everybody was in the room, you know, and I'm the only Black person in the room. And on top of that,
I mean, can you imagine, you know, the experiences our author has had, you know, being in the circles that she's been in the educational system. You know,
I can very well imagine.
Yeah, unfortunately, these things are way too common. Dio, did you want to comment on this question?
Well, I like how you tied it back into Dr. Prescott-Weinstein's experience, because she said, here she is in this extremely academic and egghead environment. And these people are still laboring with, is that your real hair? What?
Oh,
right.
You know, and then looking at her like she shouldn't be there. You know, you're supposed to be, but maybe we just have this misconception about scientific knowledge translating into emotional intelligence or just practical common sense about people.
We're looking at scientists through a weak gravitational lens.
Yes. That's it. And what amazes me, Venita, about your situation you just described was that the gentleman did not even consult. I mean, were there incidents at the school that required were people doing stuff, you know, that required, you know, we're going to have a seminar, or just, you know, what was his reasoning if everybody was kind of, you know, just acting like normal human beings, right? What?
That was my question exactly. And, you know, and again, because they're so used to saying anything they want to say, and a lot of times they don't even get a response, you know, because Black folks are many times will keep their head down to get through the transaction, you know, that kind of thing. But it's just so normal for them. It's just normal. And I was just supposed to sit there and go like this. Like the rest of the folks that then clapped. The white folks were excited.
Because this is a laurel in their cap, so they can say, oh, well, at our school, we have a racial tolerance, you know, curriculum or whatever. But are you really tolerant? You know, but what is tolerance?
But the word tolerance alone for me diminished me.
It's negative, right?
So their tolerance was like, wait a minute, I asked them. So you're saying that you're implementing a racial tolerance program so you can tolerate the 2 Black children in your school? So all you white folks are getting together and you all going to sit around and try to figure out how you're going to tolerate these 2 intelligent, super smart, super athletic, super handsome Black boys that apparently you see as a threat. Because if you didn't, you wouldn't have said that.
Indeed. No, go ahead.
And the threat was, maybe one more will come that's super intelligent, super handsome, super, you know what I'm saying? It's like you're preparing yourself. It wasn't for anybody's benefit, but for them to prepare themselves. This is what's coming down the pike, you all. You know what I'm saying? So we got 2 of them here. Next thing you know, it'll be 5, then it'll be 10. It's going to be too much. So that's how I felt as the only Black person in that room. So I can understand how she's felt many times, being an intelligent Black scientist among a whole fleet of white male scientists and those few female scientists, white ones that are sprinkled in. I don't know what the hair had to do with it.
I think it's been so traumatizing for her. She had to write a book about
it. Yeah, I'm getting that feeling. I definitely, by the time we got to this chapter, I'm like, oh, this is what this is about. Okay.
Yeah, she
Yeah.
done got that science all by the wayside, and she would move right on there. She just came.
Yes.
She didn't even ease in. It's like, anyway, this is what I'm going to tell you all along, but I had to write this stuff down.
Right. I had to start off academically.
Yeah. But look, let's move to another question, number 8. I want to get to before we run out of time. So I will read it. Minimize. Uh-oh. Okay, timer, you're about to be kicked to the curb. This somewhere. Okay. Question 8. White scientists created a dark scientist hypothetical, but it doesn't track because dark scientists are real. What if a scientist named a venereal disease that you never had using your name? Might you feel some kind of way about this?
Michelle, where you Oh my God. Wow. Just a little bit, I'd feel. Just a little bit somehow.
I just think for anybody that might feel like she's being too sensitive, to whatever. I mean, I think that's where that question comes to for me. What if there were the official name for gonorrhea was El Michelle Odom? You got the Shelly.
That's not cool. That's not totally not cool.
Kind of way.
That's right.
And I think that that's some of what she's getting at. Especially in that paragraph where she talks about the scientists that, came up with the hypothetical called the dark scientist. And she's like, well, no, there are real dark scientists, right? That name is taken.
Yeah. I mean, we're getting a real peek inside the world of science, right?
Yes.
The dark, shadowy corners where they pull, naming conventions out of their butts and don't make any sense. And how out of touch they are, even with the small diversity in their communities, right?
Right.
Like, where you guys
They're
still
not
in the
tolerating
1940s?
their diversity very well.
They don't appear to be. I'm like, okay, so you think that women scientists and scientists of color are an abnormality? That's what is this? It doesn't sound very good for American scientists. I mean, maybe I'd like to know now. I want to know how scientists in other countries are treated, because they're already diverse, right? Compared to us, Americans. But then she even mentioned, I did listen to a bit of her podcast interview with the PhD Divas, and she mentioned when she wrote her doctorate her dissertation, right? And she wanted to pay homage to her Jewish grandfather, and she wrote something in Yiddish, and they're like, no, it's got to be in English. But y'all French. Right. And they didn't even give her the option of, okay, well, just, put it there and then write it in French. They was like, no.
Or the story that she tells about when she was trying to write an article for a white journal, but she wanted to use her East LA voice because she wanted to talk to,
A particular audience,
the
right?
community that she came from, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the editor had a cow about it.
Yeah. I mean, she's not an old, she doesn't look like Einstein, right? She's a young woman, relatively.
Right.
So she should be talking to people of her age group. And, if she wants to speak to people of a particular demographic, you use the language that they're used to if you're trying to make a connection with them.
Right. If you want them to understand.
Right,
Yeah.
right. But I guess they just don't want, when she does kind of say that they don't want people of a particular demographics to understand, be interested, and I guess flood and knock down the gates of science because it's some kind of holy bastion.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Absolutely.
Well,
Venita,
I just don't know what to say about it.
would you like to have a venereal disease named after you?
Venita, that doesn't sound too good. Shallot, though.
You got to sell it.
That sounds better than you got the Venita. No. No,
I feel like Venita got a hold of you.
You see what I'm saying? I just can't even imagine. I just, every time you think that they have, said or done or created the last controversy or whatever they're doing, they can always top it. They can one up it.
Mm-hmm.
It's incredible. It's incredible. And again, to tell her that they did not want her to write it in Yiddish, or either when she's writing her dissertation or she wants to speak to a certain audience, that's what you always do. You have to meet people where you are. So there's a lot of the psychological stuff going on with that. I mean, that's what we do every day in real life. We have to meet people where they are.
Yeah, but that's why Black people have always needed our own publications. And, as she talks about, there really are no scientific journals targeting a Black audience. And so even where you may have an Ebony or a Jet or Essence or whatever, they don't have a Black science department, and so Black scientists are pretty much relegated to writing in the white press. And, and the white press is not interested in reaching us.
And I do wonder why a lot of the Black publications, they put everything else in there. I do wonder why. It would be very beneficial to us.
Well, are Ebony and Jet still owned by any Black people?
But that was my thought.
I don't think so. I don't know, but I don't think so.
But
they're right. All of the major Black publications don't exist anymore.
But even when they were owned by Black folks,
right?
It's still, it was more of the other stuff that really, didn't make a huge difference in our lives. It still wasn't there. And that's still the question why. I could see them trying to keep us in the dark, no pun intended. Yeah. But if you have these, at that point, we were pretty powerful. We had quite a few publications going around, know. Yeah. And why wasn't it then? Before they sold out to, white ownership, like BET. I'm not knocking it.
Well, and the way I see this chapter and really this beef that she has with the dark matter analogy is her trying to do an intervention for the Black community to help us see why using inaccurate metaphors is not a good thing. It's especially not a good thing when there are Black scientists who could help us come up with more technically accurate metaphors. And that, there are lots of ways in which we have to reclaim our role in science, because like that part where she talks about white people are good at collecting things and like scientific stories and people for slavery. They're not good about sharing the credit for the inventions that they come up with. Many times they wouldn't have done were it not for, the information that they collected from around the world. And then they turn around and act like, we're not interested in science. And they're introducing us to science as, a new thing. And so she's saying, that's all twisted. It's twisted. We've always been scientists. So that's how I see this chapter as an intervention to try to get us to reclaim our historic interest and participation in scientific thought and practice. And don't let white folks get away with propagating this lie that we're just not interested. So maybe that means then somebody, not Chanda, but somebody, with literary capacity needs to develop a magazine focused on Black scientists. White folks are not going to do that kind of work for us. They made it clear, at least to me, they made it clear they're not going to do that work for us.
That's true.
So I see her in this chapter as telling white folks to back the hell up and telling Black folks to step up.
Yeah. Well, she does mention this sci-fi writer, N.K. Jemisin. And while I haven't read any of her books,
me either. Maybe we should do that next.
Yeah, she's got some, I went through the titles. I'm like, well, okay, this is interesting. And apparently she's very well received by a diverse audience. The connection of, because I do have an anthology book that's titled Dark Matter, blah, 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 Afro futurism. And just to, even if it's not accurate, scientifically accurate, just to get that into the consciousness of a group of people to then be curious enough to, oh, okay, well, that's interesting. Well, let me delve some more. And then the other part of that would be, okay, now here's an art, a magazine, a blog, scientific blog, post platform where I can go find the accurate scientific information that's in a in a language that I can understand.
Right.
Right. So
Absolutely.
that would be the missing piece. So instead of we're just left with this futuristic, dark matter, what does it really mean? And then have other people interpret it for you because that's what they want it to mean. You could find out what it really means, so that's someone can step up because there's plenty of technology to make it. They can do it.
It sure is. All right. that's my questions. What did you all want to point out about the chapter? Anything jump out at you?
Other than she just fed up. That's a vision I came to. She's just like, look. It reminds me of Harriet Washington.
In what way?
Harriet went through some changes, trying to write the medical apartheid, I'm sure.
Yes, she did.
No, folks weren't happy with her putting all that out there and Black folks knowing stuff. They don't want us to know anything. Remember, but they took us off the ship. What's some of the first things they did? Try to strip us of our language by telling us that we hear you talking any of those 2,895 languages when you get off this ship, because there's quite a few languages right within West Africa. Then you're going to die. And another thing, too, I don't want to hear about your gods, all your other stuff. Here's this Bible. They shoved that Bible in your hand. And the whole goal was not to just strip us of our identity and to mute and also to mute us. But that's been the attitude, and it's been a continuum since then. Keep them in the dark. If they don't know, because they don't think we think anyway, but if they happen to think, although we don't think they think, we don't want them to think about that.
Right.
Because remember, they're going to use our bodies from the day we're born to after we die.
Right.
Not even until we die anymore. So, that need is still out there,
Yeah.
And now with all the other things going on, artificial intelligence, they need some still human specimens for a lot of things.
Yeah.
So the more we know, the more we can take care of ourselves, whether it's danger, whether it's health-wise or otherwise, and that poses a problem to them. So they don't want her getting out here talking about no dark matter, nothing else.
Yeah.
They really don't. That's why they hush her down. Be quiet and go comb your hair. Whatever it is, comb your hair. That's the intention.
Yeah.
But I do think if you educate people, you'll have people that will be willing, whether they're scholars or whether they're laymen that are curious about many things, and read a lot, want to know a lot, that if it's introduced and people start to even think about dark matter, then you'll have folks that will step up. And I'm glad she did that, to put it out there. I can't do it by myself.
Right.
That's what she was also saying. I can't do it by myself. I need you.
Right.
So,
and she's saying, she's a resource. Black scientists are resources.
Yes.
As long as we're not acting like they don't exist. They're approachable. You can call them up for an interview.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So we don't have to be out here using analogies that are inaccurate,
Yes.
And it's just a matter of when you know better, you do better. She talks about where she believes this analogy came from who was it, Sherry Thomas, in the book Dark Matter.
Yeah.
But I don't know the book and I don't know Sherry, but I imagine, she wasn't trying to be harmful or hurtful. She was taking a term that seemed, like it could be made into the equivalent of Black people and our experiences. But it takes an actual scientist. Sherry is probably not an actual scientist. It takes an actual scientist to pick apart and see what works and what doesn't work. So, I also hear her saying, we're a resource, Yeah, but she's saying we're a resource And she is a part of a generation where I imagine there are more Black scientists than ever in American history. You know, and so, you know, when she's talking about Elmer Imes and, you know, all those others that she mentioned, who were the first this and the second that, you know, I mean, there's a reason that Black scientists have been invisible to us. You know, they weren't there.
Well, I think they were.
I mean, there were always a few. You know, I'm talking about this country. I'm not talking about, you know, ancient African history.
No, I'm talking about in this country.
Mm-hmm.
During our time, I had a discussion with my father about that. He's from North Carolina. Was born and grew up in North Carolina. And there were many scientists there, and many people that are interested in going to science, much as scientists, but they made them invisible. They wouldn't let them get jobs. You know what I'm saying? All kinds of things went on. So I think Black scientists have always been there, but they've been muffled, pushed down. Wouldn't even get an opportunity to get where she is today.
Yeah.
But they've been there, and even during before his time, decades before his time, there were Black scientists that invented things and did so many things, and we learned so much.
Yeah, they have. I mean, you know, even the women, the hidden figures from Nassau, you know, that was the 1940s.
Yes.
They've been there. I'm not saying they haven't been there, but I'm saying I don't believe they were there in the numbers that they are there in 2023.
Of course not. I mean, you know they.
And yeah, that's all that
But I'm saying that's
that the more doors we've been able to knock down, you know, the more of us have been able to walk through and do things that previously, you know, we couldn't do. And she's still talking about the significant barriers to entering science, you know, and that you have to, you know, really be committed to get through all of it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty worrying, because I don't know what year the STEM program really gained steam, but I see a lot of ads, you know, still promoting it. So I don't.
To me, like by the 1980s, maybe even late 70s. My baby brother was born in 1970, and my son was born in 1984. And I definitely feel like by the time my son was in school, they were starting to push STEM. But it may have been a little bit before that, but not much, you know, certainly not when we were in school.
No.
It's certainly not geared towards females when they did start to push it. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
It's always been that way. You know, it's only been recently they actually talk about female scientists of color or encouraging them. And that's why we have a problem today, where there are a lot of countries that have been doing that for decades. But since we live in a chauvinistic, racist society, they muffled the females here. That's why now you got to import all these people from South Asia and different parts of Asia.
Yeah.
Because we are so far behind, just, you know, for that reason alone. So they talked about him during Clint's time. He was born in 87. That was, you know, I started hearing more talk about it, but it still was not, you didn't hear a lot of it geared towards females, like I see here in the last 10 years. And actually see it, not just hear it. You know, little girls are going to magnet schools that they have a concentration in science. And they did have they did have some concentration, but those are also, they weren't for magnet schools per se. They weren't concentrating on females there per se, because they're still fairly new. You compare them to the school system. But in private schools, for those that had money, Kingswood, Oxford, Avon, Old Farmington, I can name quite a few of them, where the money, which was made by mostly white females, became exposed for people of color. You know what I'm saying? Because you had the money. So they were more pushing the STEM programs in the private schools, private, very expensive schools. So I guess that's what I saw. Excuse me.
Gio,
Yeah.
can you take us to question 4, please?
Sure.
Share.
While the dark matter analogy serves to reify Black contributions, and the author has sang in the Say It Loud, I'm Black and I'm Proud choir herself, she sees the concern with the hashtag Black Girl Magic phraseology. She points to Linda Chavers, who wrote, "Here's my problem with Black Girl Magic. Black girls aren't magical. We're human," for the January 2016 issue of Elle magazine, who sees the phrase as suggesting Black women are superhuman. The strong Black woman archetype can also be leveled against Black women by other Black women. Question A. Have you ever found the Black girl magic terminology questionable or objectionable? Why or why not? B. What psychological tools or phrases do you employ to combat the dehumanizing effects of racism, if any?
Okay, thank you.
Well, you know what? When the first time I heard Black girl magic, it was some kind of thing on TV where they had the stars and they were just doing like a celebration, something. And this is a
Right.
terrible, like an award show or something. And I'm like, well, okay, cool, because people need that kind of, support, recognition. Just like she was saying in this chapter, rendered visible and not invisible. So it had, I think it had its place to, but like anything, it could become destructive. So you're not, who is superhuman? I mean, the human being can tolerate a whole lot, but at some point they can break physically, mentally, and emotionally. And that's not limited to just a specific ethnic group, right? It's about, the whole person and what's happened in their life experiences. So, terminology comes and goes, I think what lasts is how you help build a person to survive these things that that are going to be coming against them. People are going to look and classify you however they feel and with whatever limited or expansive knowledge they have. But the important thing is who you believe you are. And then the rest of it, you can take it or leave it. Where are you trying to get to? Who are you trying to be? If you understand these things, you can be a successful human being, because that's really the goal. What are you contributing to the race? The human race, right? Because the rest of this is just like clothing. You can change it with fashion and the season, but who you are inside and how you stand up for yourself is what matters. So
You're always so wise, Gio.
No, I'm not, but it's working so far. Okay.
I guess I have at times found the Black girl magic questionable. Not really objectionable, because I agree with you, Gio, that a lot of times Black people need that kind of support, because there are so many things that render us invisible. And so I think it becomes necessary to go to the opposite extreme, to make yourself hyper visible just to counteract, the invisibility. When we were talking earlier about have you ever been made to feel invisible, I was thinking about that phrase, the squeaky wheel gets the oil. And so, even though I talk a lot on book group, I really am mostly an introvert, and and a little bit shy, and rather quiet most of the time in my life. And so, it's easy to make someone like me invisible, because I'm not usually going to be the one jumping up in your face demanding attention. But I do have my way of kind of counteracting some of the effects of racism. Wearing my hair natural, for example, which Venita will tell you I've been doing since I got a bad perm when I was 16. And once I started wearing it naturally, I really liked it. And I've done braids and locks and, all the twists and all the natural things in between. But what I really like is just the short, no fuss, no muss, no frills haircut. And so I was just doing it as a reaction to a bad perm, but it unleashed a lot of reactions from everybody around me. Had strong feelings about it. And it's really the process that politicized me, because I was trying to understand, why do so many people have a problem with me wearing natural hair? What's it to you? And so that just took me down a whole rabbit hole of stuff. But continuing to wear it natural in the face of knowing that it makes some people uncomfortable is one of the ways that I fight back against the racism directed to me. So I understand that whether you like the phrase Black girls magic or not, or Black lives matter or not, or say it loud, I'm Black and I'm proud or not, to survive in the magical way in which we survive, we still need some kind of internal psychological mechanism, something that we're saying to ourselves to counteract all the negativity that's out there.
Absolutely. Well, that was well said, Michelle.
Why, thank you, Georgette. Bonita, Black girl magic?
I don't know. I just we're magical because we had to be, not because we necessarily want to be magical. And as Georgette and you both, and I agree with you, it's sometimes it's taken to a total different place rather than,
Mhm.
because I don't want to, I'm actually sick of hearing the strong Black woman. I'm done with that. And that's why so many Black women, I believe so many of us have all kinds of psychological problems, physical problems, because we're trying to live up to that strong Black woman thing. And the reality is we're not always strong. And what is strong?
Mhm.
And do I always want to be strong? And I don't want that label either. People talk about labels. I cut my hair off. You cut yours off to make a statement. I cut mine off to make a statement. Because I got tired of our own people talking about the good hair, the curly hair, right with our own families, the coarse hair. So my rebellion was to cut it all off. Because I was on that other side, the curly hair, this. I just, it's just these labels. And it's not just Black girl magic, it's just the labels, period. And then it just makes others sometimes feel like they have to live up to that yardstick. You can't, you have to be strong. You have to fight every fight. And I don't want to always fight every fight. Man, if I got something, I don't want to fight at all. And I'm just tired of labels. It's just not Black girl magic. It's just, I'm just tired of labels. Because it puts me in this box and I don't want to be there. I don't want to be there.
That's right.
I don't want to.
Bust out.
Oh, wait, Venita in a box? I can't imagine. No.
I know.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's good. I'm okay. You're okay. And that's what I've always said. I'm okay. Everyone else is okay. But that's not the way it actually goes many times. When you start putting these labels, people, you sometimes they look at you as not okay. Why aren't you fighting? Why aren't you fighting the power? Why aren't you the strong person all the time? And why aren't you this and that? Most things I very rarely say anything about, except when it comes to my children. You will hear me, you will see me, and you will see them. Because that's a very touchy subject for me, But other than that, I just am tired of labels. Why can't I just be Venita? Why can't I just be a person? Why do I almost feel like I'm out there all the time shouting to white folks, please accept me? Because that's what it sounds like to me. It doesn't really, give me strength or energize me. It's like I'm saying, please accept me.
Tolerate me.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? That's what it feels like to me. That's not what it feels like to everyone else, of course, as we said, but that's like it feels like to me. And you don't need to accept me. I can care less. I don't need to prove anything to you. I'm not magical. There are weak moments. Most of which I choose.
Speaking of weak moments, let's look at probably one more question. It's the next question 5. Being normal and having weaknesses or chronic illnesses can also be experienced as a sense of failure. The pressure to be infinitely competent is expected of Black women, no matter the cost to us physically, psychologically, or socially. Our workplaces sometimes pressure us to work through our pain, and even white people model this behavior at times. Shavers lives with MS, and Prescott Weinstein lives with the effects of a car accident. Have you ever experienced normalcy as failure? And if so, how did you cope with it? And do you think only Black people experience normalcy as failure? I do not think that only Black people have that reaction. I mean, I think there's just a lot of pressure on us as Americans, as living in a capitalist society, to produce, and any time, for whatever reason, you're not being what society deems as productive, there's somebody casting a stank eye your way. And so I think white men feel it, anybody who's the breadwinner in their family feels it. And of course, Black folks get an extra dose of it. But I think it's a problem within a capitalist system, first and foremost. I've dealt with it with my chronic illnesses, and Gio, I have a new rare chronic disease.
What?
Well, I have a chronic liver disease called primary biliary cholangitis. I recently learned I have a chronic lung disease called sarcoidosis.
Oh, no.
I'm going for the trifecta. What the hell?
Oh, Michelle.
Yes. And, but I mean, I've been dealing with stuff for a long, long time. I'm sure I've told you all somewhere along the line about how I had really an extended exposure to small amounts of carbon monoxide poisoning coming through my car in the late 90s. I've been sick ever since, so I've gotten used to it. But it was hard in the beginning. It was hard to accept that some things are just not going to ever get better. And it was hard to cope with the judgment that I could see and hear coming from, the people that I thought knew me and loved me. But eventually I did have to accept it and learn how to deal with all of that. But it's hard, it's hard. I can't blame anybody for struggling with it, because we have all kinds of ways of telling each other that you just have no value, if you can't keep up with the pack. Venita always talks about, she and I read this book called Sapiens. And one of the stories that author, Harari, tells is he's like way back in prehistoric times. And he's talking about the tribes of people, and when an old lady couldn't keep up with the tribe, somebody would just come along and pop her in the head with a stick of wood, because she was slowing things down.
Does he have this on fact, or is this a hypothesis? That's his theory.
So we have not really advanced that much from those times in terms of how we make people feel. So you have to learn to tune that out and be the one to recognize your own value, and not invest in other people's judgments, because the truth is they don't know your struggle. And they would not likely do any better than you do if they had your struggle, you know. But there's no way for them to know that, you know. So I think there's also room to be compassionate for people who don't understand what you're going through. And I wonder, with so many people now experiencing long COVID, I wonder if that's going to help to create more sensitivity in our culture toward people that are just, you know, dealing with things as best they can that are not easy to deal with.
I don't think it will. I don't think
That's
it will.
very optimistic. That's very optimistic.
I have lupus and I deal with a lot more than people will ever know every single day of my life. And I don't even talk about it because most people are interested. And if you talk about it, they give you an ailment for your ailment. So I don't even mention it. I just do the best I can. But I don't know if you had anything till you get some lupus going. People couldn't even imagine. It's an invisible disease. Usually when you have autoimmune disease like sarcoidosis and other autoimmune diseases, somewhere in your family, there are autoimmune diseases. And it's very prevalent among Black women in Black families. So sometimes they lie dormant. They've been there for many, many years. It might not have been the carbon dioxide. It's just at a certain point, there might be a stressful time in your life, which is usually when autoimmune diseases that have been dormant attack you, and they do, you know. And you're probably going to have one. I have about 4 or 5 because that's the way autoimmune diseases work. They overlap each other, you know, and it's so many. But again, you probably have it somewhere in your family. May not have what you have, but there might be other autoimmune diseases, 9 out of 10 of some kind. So that's why it's hard they call them mystery diseases. That's why they're hard to understand. That's why they're hard to pinpoint where they came from, because so many times they lie dormant in your body, or so many times there are symptoms that might seem minute that you overlook and keep it pushing, that have been there 25 years before you actually, you know, had symptoms enough to say it's autoimmune disease. You know, or doctors can detect it's autoimmune disease. So it's very, very common to have autoimmune disease. It's very common to have them cascading ones, 3 and 4 and 5 at one time. Most people do. And you just have
why do you not think the prevalence of long COVID is going to help?
Because I just think whenever you have anything that's invisible, we live in a society, everything that's face value. From looking at your face, whether you're beautiful or not, to looking at your hair, to looking at your clothes, whether you walk straight, whether you talk. We live in a face value society. These are called invisible diseases. If you're not bleeding down the front of your face, if your heart is not dropping out your butt, 9 times out of 10, as it always has been, you won't get that empathy from society. But if I'm sitting here in a wheelchair, maybe coupled with an autoimmune disease, they might be able to work up a little bit. You know what I'm saying? Or if I have a half a head or something that's visible. We live in a society that's...
Yeah.
So no, I don't think COVID's going to cause...
I used to always say before I was diagnosed with anything, that it seemed to me that the medical profession was very good at diagnosing things they could see. So if you come in there with a gunshot wound, they got you covered. You know.
Yes, that's true.
But yeah, these invisible diseases are as much a mystery to them as they are anybody else.
It is. It's a much mystery to them, and it is to us. And you know, diabetes is an invisible disease, heart disease is invisible. Anything that you can't see visible, it's invisible. And people don't care. They don't care. You know what I'm saying? They simply, and I don't think it's all the time because they want to not care. But unless it's in our face and it's always things all the time, how much can you care about? How much empathy? You know what I'm saying? So I think a lot of it's not because they don't want to care. You know, I mean, how long has it been? How long did it take us to get for people that are physically challenged, to have concrete curves put down so they can actually get up on from the street to the sidewalk.
Yeah.
How long did that
Long
take?
time.
Right.
Yep.
And they're sitting in a wheelchair. Anybody can see you can't walk. Anybody can see you got no legs. I'm not trying to be funny, but that's visible. But still, even with that, they did not care.
Yeah.
So I really don't think anybody's gonna be walking around and say, oh, now I understand, Venita, how lupus can attack every part of your body and kill you at any moment. I get that. I wouldn't wait on that. And even if I drop dead, it would be the same way because there's nothing visible to them. You know what I'm saying? It's just nothing visible. So I still hope that they do investigate it because there are people suffering from a lot of stuff, long COVID, you name it, you know.
Scrolling down Facebook page this afternoon, and somebody has posted a dead picture of Tina Turner.
Who does that?
It's just like, who does that?
But why? Who does that?
Yes.
We're a morbid society.
That's disgusting.
We're humans are horrible. Yes.
Anything for
I mean, she
a
wasn't
click.
even in the ground. She wasn't even in the ground. They already the media outlets were already talking about her net worth, her mansion in south of France, which she doesn't own anymore. She sold it and she rented from the this and that. The woman hadn't even been dead for 5 minutes. It's sad, and that's your value. What you see, and that is your value. She was good as her last play. That's as good as Tina was. But the good news is that Tina knew it. So she made sure that she lived her life to the fullest because she knew it. She was good as her last play. That's it. Yeah. And that's what they're saying in essence. Oh, well, she's gone now. Meanwhile, let's back it on up here. That mansion in Paris, well, she didn't own that. I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's sad.
Gio.
Meanwhile, back at the ranch.
Gio, have you ever experienced normalcy as failure? And if so, how did you cope with it? And do you think only Black people experience normalcy as failure?
Oh boy. Well, no, I certainly agree with both you and Venita on that. And well, you're born a Black female in America, you're gonna always feel like you gotta run twice as fast, be twice as nice. Which
Sugar and spice.
Yes. Oh boy. But I had some strong Black women around me to model myself after. So I didn't really take it to any of that stuff to heart because I knew what I wanted to do pretty much with my life. I was trying to experience life to the fullest. And I think I did. And even though I also have an autoimmune disease, and at first I was like, yeah, I'm going to stay working and I'm going to try to do this stuff, to keep up. And then, the more I read, and a good friend told me, I don't know why you're trying to do all it'll just make you worse. And it took me a while to realize, well, who am I doing this for? Why am I trying to keep up? If do I want a better quality of life, or do I want to prove something to people who just freaking don't even care about me, and I really shouldn't be caring about what they think, so then I settled into it. I did the things that I needed to do to have a good quality of life. And when I feel, healthy enough to do stuff, I do it. When you see me in the street, people think I'm Batwoman because they see me come in the cave and I come out of the cave. But they don't see me in the street, but because you don't know my story, right? I'm in here taking care of me, trying to function, right? And the stuff I have to do may take all day. Maybe I don't feel like getting up. and moving around, but I
Right.
do. You're not going to see me because I'm in here taking care of me. When you do see me, I'm at 75%, and I'm faking it till I make it to do what I have to do. And I come home and I recuperate from it.
Yes.
Mhm.
And it's nobody's business as
It
long as
really is.
I'm living the best life that I can for me, and my
Mhm.
family around me. I'm not going to, I've never been a complainer. And well, shoot, I broke my foot doing something stupid, but nobody knew
Trying
except
to
the
keep up
people,
with your
right?
grandchildren.
Lord have mercy. No, it was something totally unsafe, and I'm not going to talk about it on national, on online either.
Oh no, you don't let
Yeah, I'm
my
not going to talk about it.
imagination go to work.
Well, you
Yeah.
go right
Yeah.
ahead, Michelle. It's all right because I'm not saying how I broke my foot, but
Yeah.
I, you know, I just like, oh, okay, I'm gonna have to use this cane. I'm a hip hop, but I ain't telling nobody what happened.
Yeah. Yeah. I told you time after time to stay off that pole, girl.
Oh, Bonita. Oh, but the music was so good. Oh
Oh,
my goodness. Oh
Yeah,
my
but I know what you
goodness.
mean. I know what you mean, GL. That's why I say
Yeah.
no. I used to always feel kind of feel like I not that I failed myself, but I didn't want to fail other people by not saying no. But no is the first word that comes out now. I don't feel well. I will not be here, whether it's book group, whether it's anything. I don't care what it is.
Mhm.
Work, other events, activities. You know what I'm saying? Because it
Yeah.
takes so long. People don't understand what you do and what you have to go through, or sometimes you just
Mhm.
can't. And just because
Mhm.
it's invisible, they don't see the blood flowing. They don't know you get 4 o'clock in the morning to crank it up so you can be out here by
Yeah.
7. That's the truth. Some days.
Yeah.
So I just say no. I say no, and I don't even care what you think. The answer is just no. And if you stand there, I don't know what you're waiting for because I don't owe you an explanation. I'm not going to give you one. It's just no.
That's right.
Not tonight. This is not for me.
Mhm.
No, we were younger, and even when I first got very ill with lupus, I felt so terrible psychological. The psychological problem, psychologically, it's just as hard as physical. And it's felt all kinds of emotions in all kinds of ways, and this and that. Like I had to explain to people why I couldn't, go boating anymore, why I couldn't travel, why I can't walk down the street in an open air shopping. But then after a while, once I started really getting to my own self, I'm like, well, no, I don't really need to give the explanation. The answer is just no.
Mhm.
This is,
That's
it's not a good time for me.
but in tipping our hats to Chanda, I would say about these chronic illnesses that they also provide an opportunity for you to see the people around you through a different lens. And I don't know if you're looking through a weak gravitational lens when you're healthy, or whether you're seeing people more clearly when you're sick. But the view changes. The view changes.
Didn't really change to me because people that were good, and there's only a couple, have always been that way. The people that were, I'll call you if I need you, have always been that way.
Mhm.
So it didn't really change for me. You know what I'm saying? I just, they've always been that way. And I must say, those couple people in my life that have always been there were still there. And the ones that only call you.
Well, it changed for me. I got to see a lot of people very differently.
Well, we know, and that was crazy. But I don't know. We can't tell nobody about it because nobody believes us.
I know. You had to be there.
And that's what I'm saying. You had to be there. I was there, and I still can't tell nobody because you say that did not really happen. Yeah, it did. But that was an extreme. That was something I had never seen in my lifetime.
Yeah.
I mean, that would be funny, but usually people are the way they are before. You get a little glimpse.
Well, yeah, because my health challenges were accompanied by impoverishment. And that, I think, is the key factor that changed the way people felt about me. You know, long as I was, you know, bringing in the dough, I was good to go. But when the dough got low, they had to go.
Oh no.
Well, that's it. I mean, because that's when they think you need them for something. Naturally, you do at that point.
Yeah.
If you would still things have just been fine. If economically you were able to take care of yourself and you had your own, there would never have been a problem. They'd have called you up, you feel good? How you doing, man? You want to do something? Oh, you don't feel good? Okay, I'll catch you next week. It wouldn't have been all that hostile stuff. But the day they thought you needed them financially, it wasn't even physically. It wasn't even send a card. It's that they think that you don't, they was like, see you're on your own with your automated
it was painful, but I did pretty quickly get to a point where I just decided to see it as an opportunity to see them through a different lens, a more accurate lens.
That's the good news. That is the good news. It's always good news. That's good news. Mm-hmm.
Yep, that's true.
You only have so much energy to spend on people. That's why I don't have people, all these friends. How can you have all those friends? Friendship has to be cultivated, has to be nurtured. All that stuff has to go into lifelong friendship. Where did they get that time from?
Yeah.
Anyways, where did it come from?
Yeah. Well, look, we have hit 7:30 and I think I should go. I am waiting on a delivery that requires my signature. So I was hoping that he did not come while I was in book group because I live on the 4th floor. So I would have had to go downstairs to sign for the package. So I'm glad he that hasn't come. That means he's probably going to keep me up all night, wondering if he's still coming, you know.
Oh, no.
I've had so many delivery issues going on lately. It is really ridiculous. What has happened to the U.S. mail is just a doggone shame. It's just.
Oh my God. Why is the joy still in that job? Are you okay? Why?
I don't know. I don't know why Biden, that's not the first thing he did when he got there. One of the first things, but Bob was not on the list, you know, that top 20.
Mm-hmm,
right.
Mm-hmm.
Because the mailing system is still very important in this country to many, many people. But and I don't know what he's doing. I don't know who he assigned to that, where everybody, what they done up there. Because that should be taken care of.
Yeah.
You're right.
And that when the TV starts shouting at you again. Barack Obama, when he came into office, he cut that out.
Right.
All right. When your commercials come on, then I blast you out of your mind. Then Trump came in, and you know how he felt about things. And I don't care if Barack farted, he's going to change that part. Anything. So then he changed that. Nothing
Crazy. I mean, it just makes me think that Biden is complicit with this agenda to just tear the U.S. government apart piece by piece.
I think, yeah.
Well, they don't get those jobs because they want to change things.
That's the first thing. There you go. Thank you, Gio, the voice of reason. You always come through.
Which one?
So, all right, on that wise note, let me say I will see you all next week, reading our story together. And the chapter is chapter 7, Who Gets to Be a Scientist?
Oh.
So, I think we have survived the physics of this book.
Yeah,
very well.
That was easy reading, this chapter. Very easy reading. Very easy.
Yeah.
Like that.
And she talks in this chapter about how hard it is to translate scientific jargon for lay people, but But once she got past chapter 4, she started doing it.
That's true.
Yes, she did a good job.
Yeah,
You all have a
yeah.
good week. Gio, as usual, it's always wonderful seeing you, and I look forward to seeing you next Tuesday evening.
Me too, Venita. You stay well. Stay well.
You as well.
Okay.
Talk to
Be
you
good,
later.
Michelle.
Good night.
All right.
Good night.
Good night.